Why we Russian people don't like our government? Because we feel unsafe and deceived.
Oh my goodness, we're not even 10 seconds in the video and she already thinks she speaks for all Russian people. Who granted her that authority? But never mind, let's continue.
And now, let's go to the questions. Hi, I was wondering why young people don't like the current government. Thank you. This is true and I'm an expert in it.
And what exactly makes you an expert? Do you have a PhD or do you have some sort of credentials? Well, I guess all it takes to be an expert nowadays is to have a YouTube channel. Alright, then I'm an expert too.
More than 50% of Russians want to leave Russia and to move somewhere abroad.
Yes, and this poll was conducted at the end of 2019 by Levada Center, which, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, is recognized as a foreign agent in Russia. However, this girl manipulates information. She implies that 53% of young Russian people wish to leave Russia permanently, which is not true, because according to other polling institution, the oldest polling institution in Russia called VTSIOM, only 5% of young Russians up to the age of 35 wish to move abroad permanently and never come back. But 41% of Russians wish to go abroad to see the world, maybe to get an education or to get a job, but eventually come back home.
But don't worry, because not many of them are actually doing something to move from Russia, including myself. But yeah, why we Russian people don't like our government? Because we feel unsafe and deceived.
Unsafe and deceived. Well, I'm not Gen Z, I'm more like a Gen Y. I'm 33 and technically I count as a young Russian too, and I feel neither unsafe nor deceived. But okay, let's start with the unsafe part. Do I personally feel unsafe? I can't say that I do, because like I have to come back. Sometimes I have to come back home late from a party or maybe from my work, and I have to go through a park, and I was never attacked or mugged by gopniks, so I can't say that I feel unsafe. And for the deceived part, what does she mean? Are we being lied to by our government? I guess we are, but it's not something exclusive. It's not exclusively a Russian problem. I think every government lies to their subjects, and in my personal opinion, our government lies to us Russian people way less than Western or Chinese governments lie to their people. But that's just me.
We have been living under the Putin's rule for 20 years already, the whole my life. I'm 21 now, by the way.
Oh, so you obviously don't know what was it like to live before Putin, under Yeltsin in the 90s in Russia. I was a little boy back then, but let me tell you, I saw some stuff people may find disturbing. I saw people with the PTSD after Chechen War and the first Chechen War, and let me tell you something. Back then in the 90s, very few people could afford a personal computer with the internet connection. Very few people could afford a cell phone. And as a kid in the 90s, I can tell you that if you had a PlayStation 1 or Dandy, for those who don't know, Dandy is essentially a Chinese pirated console based on NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, as it's known in the West, or Famicom in Japan. So if you, as a kid in the 90s, had a PlayStation 1 or Dandy, you were the king of the neighborhood. All the other kids want to be friends with you and to play the console.
We didn't know any other alternative.
Okay. Let's forget about 4 years of Dmitry Medvedev as president of Russia. Okay, let's assume we forgot it. But I don't see why we should look for an alternative right now. If Putin said, okay, I'm not running for president in 2024, I'm tired, okay, then I guess there would be a reason to search for an alternative, but not right now. And especially if Putin doing it all right, he's doing great as president, so I don't see why we should replace him now. He's not an old fart like Joe Biden, so
We also have the internet, and we are more broad-minded, and we see how people live in different countries, and we see how people should live. And we're wondering why our country doesn't live like this.
newsflash, I use the internet too, and I've seen a lot of people from the West who praise Russia for our moderately conservative policies, because these people are not dumb. They can see and they can think, and they see that their once prosperous Western European and North American countries are going to hell right now. That's what they say. And it seems to me that in modern Western countries, to be myself a white heterosexual cisgender male is already considered a crime. According to woke leftists, I am inherently evil. I am racist, sexist just because of who I am. And trust me, I don't want to live like this.
And that's why we're starting questioning the reality. Our education is very outdated, and I proved it myself when, due to that exchange program in the United States, I had a great opportunity to study in the University in Minnesota, and I saw how classes, just everything is made for students. Yeah, you pay like $40,000 per year.
Hold up. Didn't they tell you anything about student loans and how people plunge into debts because of student loans, and how so many people have hard time repaying their student loans? Didn't they tell you anything about that? While in Russia you still have an opportunity to enroll for free, to pass exams and to study well, and yeah.
But still, you will have some job opportunities. You have job fairs, you have connections, you have networking.
Tell that to those Americans who ended up in Burger King or McDonald's because of their useless college degree that didn't help them one bit.
Russian universities, even in the top ones, it's like very old, it's very outdated.
Oh, for God's sake, if our education system and our universities are so outdated, how is Russia able to design all of those missiles, jets, aircraft, vessels, intercontinental hypersonic missiles if our system is so outdated? Come on, girl.
And we want to do something, but our government is only restricting us, and they're passing very stupid laws. Now they're working on a law that will restrict educational activity. The universities have to report on their activity to the government. If the university wants to have some connections with foreign universities, to exchange some scientific works, they will be restricted to do this.
Aha, I see what you're talking about. It is the law on regulation of educational activities. Yeah, I see. I read about it, and in my personal opinion, this is a very good law, because this law will help to protect our students, our children, our youth from destructive influence of our geopolitical adversaries, from historical revisionism that's saying that the Nazis were actually not that bad, and that the Soviet Union was equally guilty in starting World War II, and the absurd theories that the Soviet Union was preparing to invade Germany first and all that stuff. Yeah, the law is actually very good. I am for that law. Oh, by the way, Putin has recently signed that law, and that is great news.
Because our government is afraid of some external enemy.
Oh, so you think countries don't have, not just Russia, countries don't have external enemies or rivals? It's all like, let's give each other hugs and kumbaya, and come on, you can't be that naive. Even if you have no clue how geopolitics work, you should understand that countries have interests, and oftentimes those interests collide.
Another thing is that, in general, in the world, there's a decline of violence. And we, young people all over the world, and in Russia specifically, we are against violence and we don't accept it. But this is what our government is trying to, root in us.
Oh, have you guys seen that too? When she starts talking about violence, she immediately shows a picture of Russian police clashing with Navalny protesters. Okay, girl, let me show you how they disperse protests, anti-lockdown protests in Netherlands. And this is France and the Yellow Vests protests.
And we don't like any kind of discrimination. For example, we have a very discriminating law against LGBT propaganda, and this law is very vague.
Oh, not this again. How dare we defend our children from destructive influences? And because you see, first they are normalizing and promoting homosexuality, transgenderism, and blah blah blah. Next stop is pedophilia. And I'm not kidding. People in the West are already working on normalizing pedophilia and the bills lowering the age of consent. If anything, I would actually raise the age of consent. I'm not kidding.
Another thing is that our government is actually very afraid of some Western threat, and our Ministry of Justice passed this law about foreign agents.
This is also a very good law, and I support it. And didn't you know that the US has similar law since 1930s? Well, it's actually not the same as ours, because the US law on foreign agents is actually stricter than ours. I read both and compared, and the US law is actually stricter. Yes.
And some non-profit organizations that are actually doing very useful work in Russia. For example, there is a center for the victims of the domestic abuse, and another organization is the AIDS Center. And by this law, now they're called foreign agents, and this law actually restricts their activity, because now they have to make reports about all their incomes and to stand to this ministry, and every place where they mention the organization they have to write, oh yeah, actually we're a foreign agent. And that's so stupid.
I'm sorry, but if you receive money from abroad, and if you work for foreign interests, and you receive foreign money and try to meddle in Russia's political situation, and you operate in the interest of a foreign power, I'm sorry, you are a foreign agent by all definitions. And one of those organizations she is talking about is actually affiliated with Mikhail Khodorkovsky, which is a fugitive Russian oligarch. This man is a psychopath. He is obsessed with the revenge on Vladimir Putin. He will stop at nothing. This is a very dangerous man.
And we have obligatory military service that I think should be abolished. Thanks God it's only for guys. I think if I had to go to the army, I would buy this army ticket. They say you have to pay a debt back to your motherland.
Although conscription is still a thing in modern Russia, but less than 20% of all age group are recruited, and the number of conscripts is actually decreasing in the Russian army now. I'm not going to say every man should serve in the Russian army, because that would be very hypocritical of me, because I wasn't conscripted, I didn't serve due to health issues.
And our politics topic is continued by this question. What do you think about Vladimir Putin changing the Russian constitution to keep himself in power until 2036 or maybe longer? Does the average Russian citizen fear speaking out against him? And how aware are Russians that he controls all the media inside of Russia? Well, I think Putin is losing his electability and I'm not sure he will be elected again. Like, people are respecting him less and less.
Whoa, hold on. If you like Levada Center so much, here's another poll for you. Take it in 2019. I'm sorry I couldn't find any fresher poll, but if the presidential election took place in the next Sunday, then 55% of voters would vote for Putin. Yeah, bad news, girl, bad news for you.
And you can see that even Navalny, oppositional leader number one in today's Russia, he made a film about Putin's palace, about the huge corruption.
Yeah, I know. I saw that so-called investigation film about so-called Putin's palace. Oh Jesus, this is one of the most poorly made piece of propaganda I've ever seen. It was debunked numerous times. The building is actually not a palace, it is actually a beachside hotel. And some of the interiors in that hotel are CGI. And the funniest thing is that this hotel is still under construction.
So yeah, it's possible to criticize him, but be ready to go to jail.
Actually, Navalny went to jail for fraud, not for criticizing Putin. And Navalny himself is a very corrupt man. He loves money more than anything. Isn't it ironic that an organization which is called Foundation for Fighting Corruption was headed by a corrupt man himself?
Yeah, and I think those who have critical thinking that are aware that all the TV channels are under our government. Luckily, I stopped watching TV 8 years ago. I think that's why I'm so smart.
Yeah. You're so smart that you think that if the internet cannot be used for propaganda. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But still, elderly adults and our grandparents, they watch the TV. But we, young people in Russia, we understand that the government controls all the media.
Actually, I also don't watch TV, and I don't believe anything that is written online. And I use critical thinking. I criticize information. I research. I try to do fact check. I never believe anything at face value.
Actually, our government now is passing some laws that will harden the punishment for the information or insults towards some governmental officials, so...
And many Western countries have similar laws, and so what? Just look at Spanish rapper Pablo Hasél, which is facing charges for glorifying terrorism and defaming the crown, Spanish crown.
Protests. Hi, I was looking for videos from Khabarovsk protests and that's how I found your channel. Can you tell us what people expect to change with that protest? Cause I don't think that the actual regime will release Furgal just like that. Yeah, so political scientists say that to spark a protest there must be some precise reason. And for us, for people in Khabarovsk, this was the arrest of our governor, Sergei Furgal. And by the way, I made a video about this back in July. You can watch it, even though we still don't know whether Furgal was killer as they are accusing him. I don't believe. I think that some oligarchs decided to put him to jail because Furgal has a stake in the Amurstan factory located in the Khabarovsk region and they just wanted to remove him somehow. I know that it's contrary to the law to release Furgal just that simply, but we're just genuinely worried about our very good governor.
This is not a court, and I am not a judge, so it's not up to me or up to you to decide whether Furgal is guilty or not. As for Furgal being actually a good governor, look, I'm not from Khabarovsk, and I don't know anyone who currently lives in Khabarovsk Krai, but after Furgal took power, investment climate of Khabarovsk Krai has changed for the worse, and Khabarovsk Krai is now placed 63 in terms of investment attractiveness, although the Khabarovsk Krai has great potential. I hope the new governor Mikhail Degtyaryov is going to correct Furgal's mistake. As for the protests, well, Furgal always had a reputation of a man of the people, so I think that's why people of Khabarovsk protested so much about him. But I also heard reports of protesters being imported from other regions, such as Vladivostok or Primorsky Krai.
I'm from Brazil and I've been fascinated with Russian history. I'm so curious to know how is life in modern day Russia and if there is any reflection of its history in the everyday life of Russian citizens. Well, there are two main topics. It's the militarization and architecture. I'm saying militarization because I mentioned the Great Patriotic War before, and these political experts on TV who are still trying to keep us being patriotic despite all these bad sides of our country.
Listen, no country is perfect, alright? Every country has its good and its bad sides. And for now, I personally see more good sides than bad sides in Russia. So we shouldn't be patriotic just because our country is not perfect and has bad sides? No, I don't think so, sorry.
They constantly refer to this great victory. Yeah, it's important to remember your history, but I don't like this over-militarization. And I actually mentioned it in my video about the I Speak song called Marching. They're taught that we have these huge military parades all the time, and we have this thing like the community for kids. They're learning all this military stuff, and it's called Yunarmia, like the junior army, and people often compare it to the Komsomol in the USSR. I don't like involving kids in the military, but this is what our government is doing.
Yeah, I know, some dumb, ignorant, idiotic people are comparing young army to Hitler Jugend. What a bunch of idiots. However, if you don't like militarization of kids, quote unquote, then you should also condemn the United States Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, okay? So to avoid double standards. And to be completely honest with you and with you, my audience, if I don't have kids, but if I had a son, and if I had to choose, what would I prefer him to see him to do? To go to Navalny protests or to join the young army? For me, the answer is obvious: to join the young army.
And it influences us not only in that agenda, but because our cities are built this way. For example, in Spassk, in my hometown, we have a big memorial monument with names of people who participated and died in the war, and it's a very important place. And next to it, we have a park called Victory Square, and there is a cannon exhibited there. And in every Russian city, we have monuments like this.
So what's wrong with that? After all, Russia is one of the nations that suffered the most during the Great Patriotic War and World War II. So, didn't you say a couple of minutes ago that it is important to remember your history? Are you you're contradicting yourself? Come on, girl!
Another thing is the architecture and the Soviet buildings, because the majority of Russian people still lives in the Khrushchevkas. It's these high-rise apartment buildings, and I was lucky to live in this house. It's actually a private house or a country house, but the majority of Russians live there in small tiny flats. If you like this Soviet vibe, this is just the heaven for you. Yeah, the only thing that it becomes really overwhelming when you live in it every day.
I kinda have to agree with the girl right now, because these Soviet apartment houses are some sort of devoid of originality and individuality. And I'm saying this as a person who grew up in such a Soviet-style apartment building. However, new apartment buildings, which are modern, and they have some individuality, they have underground parkings.
Another very characteristic thing is the Lenin statue in the center of our city square. So the city administration decided to leave him here. And it's a nice reminder of the Soviet epoch. It's 50-50. On the one hand, we have this great Soviet heritage, but
yeah, Lenin statues in the center of every Russian city. Yeah, maybe someday those statues of Lenin will be replaced with statues of Putin. I'm joking, of course.
On the other hand, there are a lot of kolkhozes and villages. They used to be prosperous in the Soviet times, but now they're just abandoned. And you can walk through these Soviet ruins and feel like you're somewhere in the Chernobyl series, you know?
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? You have Boris Yeltsin and his government in the 90s to thank for that. You see, during the 90s, many people, a lot of people from villages moved to the big cities to get better life, because there was no job in the village. Only babushkas, grandmas, and dedushkas, granddads had to stay in the village because they weren't able to move to the city. But all the youth, all the young people moved to big cities. That's the 90s for you. Terrible time. People were drinking themselves to death because of poverty and lack of perspective in life, and people were fainting because of malnutrition.
So this was my personal opinion about the Russian government.
Ah, so it was your personal opinion. That's the thing. Oh yeah, and I thought you were speaking on behalf of all Russian people, or at least on behalf of all Russian Gen Z. Well, people, I have to tell you, not all of Russian Gen Z are like this. Many of Russian youth I know do not think like this girl here in the video.
Probably under this video there will be many comments that I'm like
The moment of truth, guys. The moment of truth.
a Western puppet, a liberal kid, that Putin is the only one who saves Russia from enemies.
This girl is the reason why Russia is changing its policies of its work with the youth. Look, I'm not saying Putin is perfect. I'm not saying he should be immune to criticism. I have some questions to him, and I have some criticisms of Putin. So I also don't think we should be slaves to the government, and we should have some basic rights. However, it should never go too far. And as of now, I think I, as a Russian citizen, I have all the basic rights. Yeah, but anyway, this has been Soviet Russian Bear. Peace, love, and prosperity to all of you, my wonderful subscribers and viewers. If you like this video, please click that subscribe button, and if you want more videos like this, please click the like button and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. But for now, до свидания, bye bye.